People talk about bad first dates like they're jokes. Awkward silences, wrong restaurant, someone lying about their age. But there's a kind of first date people don't joke about. The kind where everything feels normal until later, when you realize something was missing the entire time. Not danger, not fear, truth. I didn't think twice about meeting him. That's the part that still bothers me. We matched online, texted for a week. He was polite, funny in a quiet way, nothing forced. We agreed to meet in a public place, a small restaurant, not crowded, not empty. I arrived first. I remember checking my phone twice before he walked in. I remember thinking, okay, he looks like his pictures. That matters too, because nothing about him felt fake. The date wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad either. We talked about work, family, the usual first date filler conversations. He listened more than he spoke, not in a creepy way, just observant. At one point, I realized he never looked at his phone, not once. Later, I realized something else. He never asked me many questions back. He let me talk, like he was learning something. It happened when I excused myself to the restroom. I was gone maybe 2 minutes. When I came back, he was standing near our table, not sitting, holding his jacket, like he'd been about to leave. I joked about it. He smiled and said, I just needed some air. Except the restaurant wasn't stuffy, and it was winter outside. I brushed it off. That was my mistake. After dinner, we decided to walk. Public street, street lights, cars passing, safe. At some point, he slowed down. Not stopped, just slowed. I turned to look at him, and he was watching the reflection in a store window. Not me, us. I asked what he was looking at. He said, just making sure this feels real. That line stayed with me. We reached my car. I expected the usual awkward goodbye. Instead, he stepped back, further than normal. Didn't hug me, didn't lean in. He just said, I'm glad I met you. And then he walked away. Not toward a car, not toward public transport, just down the street. I watched him for a few seconds, then I left. I texted him. No reply. I checked the app. His profile was gone. Not unmatched. Gone. At first, I assumed he deleted his account. People do that. But later that evening, something happened that changed everything. I was scrolling local news, not looking for anything specific, and then I saw a familiar photo. Not the same angle, not the same lighting, but the same face. Different name. The article was short, very careful with words. It said several women had reported after meeting him, his identity could no longer be verified. I read that sentence again and again. What does could no longer be verified mean? No permanent address, no consistent employment history, multiple aliases used online. But here's the part that still doesn't sit right. The article mentioned one woman who said something that made the police reopen the file. She said, he didn't do anything wrong, but when he left, it felt like he'd already decided something. I went back to my messages, screenshots I'd saved. His number still existed, but when I called it, disconnected. Not unavailable, disconnected, like it never belonged to anyone. Nothing happened to me. That's what makes this worse. No attack, no threat, no crime. Just a meeting that felt unfinished, like a conversation that was paused, not ended. Sometimes I wonder, was the date for me, or was I just practice. We talk about first dates like they're harmless, but sometimes you don't walk away scared. Sometimes you walk away uncertain. And uncertainty is worse, because you never know if the story actually ended or if you just left the room too early.
I didn't notice it at first. That's the worst part, because if someone does something obviously creepy, you remember it, you react. But when someone knows things they shouldn't know, your brain tries to explain it away. And by the time you realize it can't be explained, it's already too late. We met through a dating app. Nothing unusual. He didn't rush things, didn't push for late-night meetings, didn't overshare. Green flags. All of them. After about 10 days of chatting, we planned a coffee date. Daytime, public place, crowded cafe. I told myself this was the safest version of a first date. When he walked in, he smiled and said my name. That's normal. What wasn't normal was what came next. He looked at me and said, "Sorry if I'm a little awkward. I didn't sleep well after your exam." I laughed automatically, then froze, because I had never told him I had an exam. Not on the app, not in text, not on social media. I told myself maybe I forgot. That's how the brain protects itself. As the date went on, it kept happening. Small things. Details. He mentioned my sister, not by name, but by role. Talked about the bus route I usually take. Referenced a cafe I go to near my house. Each time he said it casually, like it was common knowledge. I kept smiling. I kept nodding. Inside, something was tightening. I wanted to ask him how he knew these things, but I didn't because I didn't want to seem paranoid, because nothing he said was technically threatening, because the cafe was full of people. That's how fear hides, behind logic. He leaned forward slightly and said, "You don't post much online, but you're easier to understand than you think." I asked what he meant. He smiled and said, "You repeat patterns." That's when I noticed something else. He had never asked me where I lived, but he knew when I hesitated before answering questions. I ended it early, made an excuse. He didn't argue. He didn't insist. He just said, "I figured you'd leave around now." That sentence followed me home. That night, I checked my phone. No new messages, no follow-up text, nothing. I opened the app. His profile was still there, but different. New photos, different bio, same face, different name. I reported it. The app responded with a generic message. Then 2 days later, I got an email from local police. They asked if I had gone on a date recently. They didn't tell me why at first. Then they asked if the man had mentioned personal details about me. That's when my stomach dropped. They told me there were multiple reports. Different women, different cities, same pattern. Public dates, no crimes, just one shared sentence in every statement. He knew things I never told him. Before ending the call, the officer said something quietly, almost like he wasn't supposed to. He said, "We believe he gathers information before he meets someone." I asked how. He paused, then said, "We don't know." Nothing happened to me, and that's what scares me the most, because whatever he was doing, he hadn't finished.